Yeah, obviously excited about the victory. We're going to write a book on traveling. Uh, we're pretty used to it. No one travels more than Miami football. We start off in Miami with a interesting trip voyage. We made it there and back safely, which is all that matters. Obviously, we didn't enjoy that game very much. This week, same thing. Trip was good. Obviously, 3 different delays. The last one being a major delay. Very frustrating. You know, the first 2 delays, there's lightning in the area, but it's 84 and sunny, and there's, you know, you can see it's north of us. So it's hard to get your kids to understand why we're not playing, let alone fans to understand. Like, I get it because I got inside information why we're not playing, but like, you got a really unhappy locker room. Like, what are we doing? We went out there to warm up, and it's bright, sunny 84, and we're in a weather delay, and there's no rain for the next 4 hours, you know. And then we go back and play 13 minutes, and you're in another weather delay, and just understanding what you have to deal with. And again, I get it. I get, you know, no one's here complaining about anything. It's just, it's really hard on the kids because they're sitting in bright, sunny playing a game, and all of a sudden the ref comes over and says, we got to leave the field, and everybody's looking at each other like, are you kidding me? Like, and everybody in the stadium was probably thinking the same thing. What are we doing? Like, why are we not playing this football game? And then you have no rain, you know, and it was just on the outskirts of us, and it was north of us, and then the storm comes from the south, and then we knew that was, you didn't have to convince the kids why we weren't playing. It was dark at 7:30, and there's lightning everywhere, and then you got to sit there for 3 hours, and you eat your post-game meal in the middle of the first quarter, which I've never done before. Literally, our post-game meal came because that's when, you know, but now we haven't eaten since 11:30 or 12, and now it's 7:30. We should be done playing, but we haven't even really started. So the two biggest things for me that, you know, I told the team should be proud of, like, one, how they handled it. They handled it amazingly. Everyone was frustrated. It didn't matter if you're there or you're frustrated. Nothing anybody can control, but how you handle your frustration. And they stayed locked in. They got undressed. They got in the air-conditioned buses. Yoch did an unbelievable job, and we had sent for more food. And then they came out, like, after the second delay, like, our kids were dying to play. You know, they didn't want to go home. We were asked, you know, what do we want to do? It's going to be a really, really late night. Our kids were like, what do you mean, what do we want to do? Like, there had been a mutiny if we tried to cancel that game. So I'm like, no, we want to play. Like, we'll play tomorrow morning. We'll play in the middle of the night. We'll play whenever the weather breaks. We'll play. You know, I don't know what anybody else wants to do. This is what we do. We got 12 of these a year. We train 9 months for 12 opportunities. But they were ready to play when we came out. Every time they were ready to play when we came out and excited to play. And then the second thing I think they should be proud of is, again, we played some really good football and we're dominating a football game. And then you look up and somehow it's 31-28. And credit to UMass for making some plays, but discredit to us, we gave them 2 touchdowns on offense. Well, it's hard to, that's how the game got close, is we throw a pick 6 and fumble on our one. All of a sudden, what should be 31-14 is 31-28. And how they responded, you know, because sometimes when you're killing somebody and then things go awry and you're on the road and they supposedly have all the momentum when they punch it in and make it 31-28, and then we score the next play, and then we had 4 3-and-outs, and we drove for another field goal, and we drove in, you know, so 4 3-and-outs, a touchdown drive, a field goal drive, and run the clock out, and how they responded to that adversity. Like I told them, she'd be really, because we should have been reeling. Most people would have been reeling. You didn't. You just kept playing, and we kept executing and made more plays than them. So did tons of good things. Defensively, turnovers. They score on defense. They get a strip sack. Willard and Kobe falls on the end zone and get another turnover late to help ice it. Negative defensively, we got thrown over heads twice. Can't happen. That also helped them get back in the game. Negative defensively, penalties, you know, not forced penalties, like just we were off the field a couple times and we late hit the quarterback, which was really, really bad. We had a face mask penalty. We would have been off the field again, you know, so we kept drives alive, made it harder than it was to get stops. Obviously, offensively, you know, we average 25 yards per completion. You're going to win a lot of games if you average 25 yards per completion. And we made big plays and obviously made another huge play at 31-28, you know. At that point, obviously, Gage had a huge game. And then we ran the ball. You know, we have a 100-yard rusher, and we ran the ball in the fourth quarter when you have to run the ball. And the run game complemented the pass game. The guys up front did a great job in protection. Obviously, offensively, 3 turnovers it's hard to win with 3 turnovers. We played really good football to win by 13 points with 3 turnovers. You have to dominate the football game to do that, and we did dominate the football game. But obviously, pick 6 on a bubble screen, and then we have another guy wide open, and we don't connect. And then we fumble on the 1-yard line. So you get 14 points. So obviously you have to clean those up. If you make those mistakes against Cincinnati, it won't be good for us. So tons and way more positive negatives, but unfortunately our negatives, the 2 big plays and the 3 turnovers, are a game changer that causes losing and has to get rectified and has to get rectified immediately.
All right, questions?
Last week you had kind of an extra day since you played on Friday. This week, getting back late and everything, how much have you lost in terms of preparation? Also, kind of related, this is the 3rd week in a row where you're going to play somebody else has really had a big change, like a coaching change or a huge influx of new people. How has it been for trying to prep against these very different teams?
Yeah, obviously it's been difficult, and we're hedging and we're guessing. You can't. So, again, we're watching a bunch of Louisville tape. We do have 2 games this year, which is obviously helpful for versus the first game when you don't have any games. So, but yeah, it is hard, and then being on the road. I know this is an easier trip, obviously, than Miami or Massachusetts, but it's still on the road. We still, so it's still playing in somebody else's venue. It's still the visitor locker room. It's still, the biggest thing, UMass, like our concern is it was really smoking in UMass on Saturday. Like I felt as hot as I did down in Miami. It probably wasn't as humid, but it was hot. Now Miami was a night game, Like I really didn't. I felt like I was sweating more at UMass than I was at Miami, to be honest with you. And my biggest concern is UMass is every break is going into their air-conditioned football building, which makes sense. Everybody and we're going into this really small locker room we were worried about pregame. It was ridiculously, there's no air in there. And then, so again, Yoch did a good job. He's like, hey, we got these buses. Should we crank these things up and get the AC? So our kids basically sat on the buses with, at least they had air conditioning. They're not just sitting there drained. So everything with being on the road is hard. And obviously, not many people do it 3 weeks in a row. Like that's very rare that you'd ever have 3 straight road games to start at any point in the season, So, but like I said, we've played more road games than any team. I haven't looked it up, but I promise you, if you do look up since 2019, who's played the most road games in America. I have no idea. I haven't looked up, but I'd be willing to bet a lot of money that Miami Ohio's played fewer. I don't know about more road games. I'd say fewer home games for sure. So our guys are pretty used to it. And like we talked last week, like Bake brought it up, and was that an issue that our guys are just good at? One, we like being on the road. We're just used to it. That's what we think. Or when we play at home next week, and Bake will ask me hey, how much fun is playing at home? I'm like, no one appreciates it more than us. It's like everybody loves playing at home, but if you got 7 or 8 home games, I was at Notre Dame, we played 8 home games. That was fun. Or at least 7 home and 4 on the road and 1 at a neutral site, which was a home game. So, but going into environment and hostile fans, and it'll be rocking and rolling down in Cincinnati this weekend. So our kids like it, and again, another great opportunity to play a great opponent.
Rashad Amos, you really leaned on him. Is that the plan going forward, and what does he bring to the offense?
Obviously, big physical back, really good contact balance, gets extra yards for us, good field, did a tremendous job in pass pro. Our protection for Brett was really good, and it was the 5-0 lineman getting it done, and Rashad getting it done too. On pass plays, he becomes an O lineman for us, and he really did a nice job. Brett had, for the most game, he had plenty of time to throw and plenty of time to, get our routes to the point we need to. So he had a really strong game. Mose had 5 really good carries, had a key 3rd down. I thought Mose looked really good in there. Kenny Tracy was nicked up, did not dress. So that limited us a little bit back there. So we leaned on those 2 guys mostly.
So what can you tell us about UC? How much different are they from what you've seen so far than in previous years?
Yeah, they're still running 3 down. It's a different version of 3 down, obviously with new coordinators and, they've been together a long time. I know Coach Satterfield is an offensive guy. He's a play caller. they're going to run the football and they're going to throw the ball over their heads. That's what they've done all the way back from Appy State to Louisville to here. Obviously, offensively, the quarterback is a tremendous weapon throwing in. If you go back a couple years, I think he had like 3,600 yards one year in the SEC running and throwing, which if you can have 3,600 total yards in the SEC, you're a pretty good player. Like, you're doing it against the best of the best. And I think he threw for 2,500, ran for 8-something or something in one season in the SEC. So he's he's completed 75% of his passes through 2 games. And he's a big, strong horse as a running threat quarterback, which he'll use. The Kiner kid's tremendous. You talk about contact balance, power, physical speed, strength. Like, he's every bit as good as the Miami, Florida running backs, maybe a hair better if you ask our defensive coaches. And we thought the Miami, Florida running backs were fantastic. Obviously, they were fantastic against us. But Kiner's that same type. Then they play tons of skill guys. They've kind of had change in the guard. They've had them wideouts there forever. They kind of had to change the guard with the coach leaving and graduation, all that. But they've loaded up with a bunch of skill guys. They play a ton of guys. And then they run their mid-zone. They're split mid-zone. That's what they always do. And they're really good athletic up front. So offensively, they've been really, really good. The first 6 quarters of the season, they had scored over 90 points. They kind of got bogged down the second half against Pitt, but they had a big lead, and sometimes you take your foot off the gas a little bit, and because they were getting after Pitt pretty good. Defensively, 3-4, they're inside. They're down 3 kids. They're just big physical dudes, man. They are good football players. They're fun to watch. Not fun to play against, but they are fun to watch. If you like defense like I like defense, those dudes are fun to watch. They are wreaking havoc, and those 3 guys alone are a problem in the run of the pass game. And they'll drop 8 a bunch, and they rush 3, and those 3 guys are, and again, they're just very immovable. They clog up. 3 guys take up way more than 3 gaps in there, and they've been that way. Same guys that have been playing for a while there, and they're really good football players. They've got 2, a new Jack, a new Will transfers, one from Louisville, one from, I forget where the other kid's from, but big, physical, strong, and then they've had a little bit of change of guard secondary, but they have athletic dudes back there, and they're ball hawks, and they're aggressive cut tacklers, and they like to jump routes, and they're very physical. So they're talented, athletic new kids back there. We're still getting a handle on them, but they can fly around. They're same aggressiveness. So really talented. They crushed Eastern Kentucky, and again, obviously, I'm hoping, man, I hope Eastern Kentucky's not very good. So maybe 66-7. Well, I saw that score. You think, geez, that stinks. We got to play them in a couple weeks, and then you come back next week, and Eastern Kentucky's beating Kentucky middle of the 3rd quarter at Kentucky. I'm like, geez, that's not what I want to see. I was hoping Kentucky killed them too, and then I was like, well, Eastern's just really bad this year. They're a down year, whatever. But obviously, they're not bad if they played Kentucky and stuff. They did. Then they went to Pitt, and Pitt's been really good the last few years. And Pitt's favored going the game, whatever, and it's 27-7 at half, and it's a whooping. And Pitt is one of the more physical teams in the country. Always, Coach Narduzzi's teams are always physical, nasty, and Cincinnati really, really took it to them physically in the first half. And then Pitt made a nice comeback and actually had a chance to win it. But that first half was a physical domination against a team that, again, so they're off to a really good start. And I know Coach Satterfield's an awesome guy and a great offensive mind everywhere he's been offensively. They've been really good. So it's again, they've been one of the, a top 4 team, top 10 team, top 20 team the last 3 years, and they got tons of talent. And it's a very exciting game for us and a very exciting opportunity for us.
What was the physical toll on the team through Saturday? 11 hours that we were there? Obviously during the game and waiting and stuff is one thing, but what about yesterday, getting back, just getting enough rest or getting, enough energy to get out there and actually get ready for Cincinnati?
Yeah, we had to change, you just got to be able to adapt. I don't know, in your guessing, you don't have an answer for when you get back at 6:30 in the morning and you just had an 11-hour game, the game was more taxing from just the weight. You don't sit there in your uniform. So we just changed our Sunday schedule. We did, we did a ton of recovery. We did a ton of lifting because that's what you need to recover. We pushed the schedule way back. We're supposed to be in 11:30. We came in at 2:30. We try to get them 6, 7, 8 hours of sleep maybe because that's recovery. You got to get your body. I said, we'll catch up mentally. We're behind mentally. We do stuff on the field for the next opponent, STO and D. We didn't do any of that yesterday because I just want to get them out here and get them back. They got class today. They had homework to do. and get them, if they could get some rest last night. I figured if I could get them feeling good, we'll catch up. We can spend extra time if we need to on structurally Cincinnati. So whether it was the right call or not, we try to get them. Hopefully they're feeling pretty good today because we were all zombies yesterday to a certain extent.
Noticed Luke Bolden go off. Didn't see Mersch out there much. How'd you come out injury-wise?
Injury-wise, we came out great. Luke got rolled up on a little bit. He seems okay. I don't think it's a season-ending anything like that. So we'll see about this week. We'll probably know more by tomorrow. But that was worse. I get big difference playing Miami and UMass. Even with the long trip and the long travel, like, you know, we got some other bumps and bruises, but totally different opponent, you know. And people, like, if you saw our training room on the day after Miami and you saw our training room the day after UMass, don't look the same. And just the severity of, like, you know, we had tons of guys not practice next Tuesday. I don't anticipate a bunch of guys not practicing this Tuesday. There might be a couple, but I anticipate. So just totally, we do it every year, and we know that they're like totally different opponent, and totally different amount of carnage coming out of it. So hopefully it's just we'll have games like that and stay pretty healthy from here on out.
It's got to be nice to have somebody like Brett. There's a pick six, and yet with his experience and everything, he's able to, you know, just keep right on trucking and bounce back from that.
Yeah, we had two interceptions in the first half, and again, the first one we miss a block on a bubble screen, or we don't touch a guy, and Gage is getting hit shortly after he should be catching it. The ball hits Gage right in the head. I mean, literally hit, like, it's as bad a play as you ever put. I mean, if you were coaching Pop Warner, you put that on tape, it's you know, it's bad. It's bad football. And so the ball bounces off our head 30 yards up in the air, and a guy picks six it. So that one's, unless you're frustrated, it's easy, like, he didn't really do anything wrong. He threw the ball, hit a kid in the head, and it bounced off his head. And then the second one, or that was actually the second one. The first one, Bender was open. It wasn't a terrible throw. It would have been you know, Joe was really reaching out for it, just barely nicked his fingers. If it's 6 inches more, we don't touch it, and falls harmlessly incomplete. If it's 6 inches closer, we catch it. It was like literally that play that you're like, a little bit of bad luck. Joe reaching, just got his fingertips, but he got enough on it that he deflected the ball right to the DB, you know, like, and literally, if it's a little closer, he catches it a little farther. It was just like the perfect miss to, so again, he bounced back good from that one. Then the fumble, you know what I mean? The fumble's on him. That's not on anybody else. He's got to protect the football. That one's squarely on him. And, you know, the series after the fumble, he hits Gage for another big play, the very next play for what turns out to be a touchdown. So, yeah, no, Brett's big difference in the offense and what he's saying on the sidelines, and, you know, I mean, versus the quarterback that looks shell-shocked or, oh, it's not going my way today. Totally difference having a confident, experienced quarterback that can bounce back and helps the whole offense bounce back.